Hi, welcome to Manas Shield YouTube channel. Before we start, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Let's start the video. If you haven't watched the previous video, I'll link it in the description box, or you can click here. Chapter 4, Shattered Ambition. Losing Battle. Cautiousness paled and Sylvia scowled. Cautiousness, who was Jahl's daughter, and Sylvia had known each other for a long time as high elves created by the ancestor. Although they disliked each other and had parted company, they had a high regard for each other's abilities and were on guard against each other. Knowing Jahl's wickedness, they both understood that his resurrection would be the worst of all evils. And that was Feldway's trump card. In the land after Millam's rampage, he sought out Jahl, who had lost his body and had become a wandering soul. He protected Jahl, who would not have escaped extinction without him, and let him sleep for a long time. While Lieutenant Kondu was controlling Demon Lord Clayman, Feldway implanted Jahl's soul into Footman. He thought that Footman, with his weak ego and intelligence, could be taken over by Jahl's power. His plan succeeded, and Jahl slowly invaded the Footman's body. At first, he had only passed on information to Feldway, but the balance of power was eventually reversed when he inhabited the Seraphim, and Jahl took full control. All that was left was to awaken at Feldway's signal. Feldway, who had intended to awaken him at the most effective time, decided that now was that time. Come on, Jahl. Use the power I've given you, and kill them all. Useless tools must be disposed of, Feldway ordered. Jahl, along with the Seraphim, had been given the Charity King, Regel, that Michael had taken from Valgrand. He had secretly taken it for himself, owning it as the ultimate enchantment Blaze King, and I've been waiting for this day. Finally, I can use this power to the fullest. Jahl laughed evilly. Footman's huge body was engulfed in flames, and he became a fire emperor who destroyed anything he touched. Jahl, who could control fire at will, unleashed his vicious power. Footman's angry mask shattered and melted. And the face that appeared was ugly and distorted, as if representing his heart. Footman, give me back my Footman, Cautiousness shouted. But her sorrowful voice only pleased Jahl. You're so weak. I'd like to give you a good beating, but it's just too bad. I'm under Feldway Dono's orders to kill. Forgive me, you fool. With that, Jahl hurled a fireball at Cautiousness. While not as powerful as Valgrand's, Jahl's fire was still powerful. If exposed to its heat, any material would burn up in an instant. Damn it, don't ignore me. Lapis tried to deflect the fireball with a magic bullet, but it was far too powerful. It was swallowed by the fireball, and had no effect on it. The fireball then swelled up and swallowed Cautiousness, Tyr, and Yuki. But as the flames subsided, a figure remained standing. It's useless. It was Yuki. Despite his fatal condition, he stood up and blocked the fireball with his anti-skill. Oh, my flames won't penetrate. So that's it. It's not a matter of power. It's nasty. Let's just admit it's a real pain in the ass. Jahl's eyes lit up with the light of a researcher. His mouth twisted with pleasure, as if he were curious about a new toy. Boss, are you okay? No, of course not. I'd like to go lie down in bed quickly, but the problem is that the enemy doesn't seem to want to let me go. Well then, what are you going to do? The important thing is. The important was to survive. He understood that, but couldn't think of a way to do so. According to Yuki's observations, Jahl's power was 10 times greater than Lapis's. Compared to Yuki himself, it was certain that his power was 5 times greater. In fact, from the divine point of view, Lapis had an existence value of a little over 1,000,000. That strength was unparalleled compared to a demon lord seed, but as an awakened demon lord, it was at the bottom of the group. It was Lapis's experience that allowed him to make full use of his skill and make him so powerful. In comparison, Yuki, who was still a saint and so high up that it would not be surprising if he became a divine spirit, had an existence value of about 2,000,000. However, he possessed a powerful skill Greedy King, Mammon, and a foul anti-skill that disabled other skills, so he had a combat ability that could not be measured by numbers. Tyr had an existence value of 2.4 million, which was higher than Yuki's, if one was only looking at the numbers. She had a unique skill called Optimus which allowed her to have less desire for herself. Under certain conditions, she could raise all of her physical abilities threefold, but this would only work against lower-ranked opponents. Since she did not have the same level of skill as Lapis, she was the weakest of the four. And Kigali was the one with the largest existence value among them. She was the most powerful among the four, with an existence value of nearly 3 million. In addition to that, she was reinforced with the rune scepter, so her total existence value reached 4 million. Sadly, however, Kigali was a support type. She was not that good at neither close combat or long-range combat. It was not that she was of no use, but she was not very promising in terms of combat. In comparison, Jahl's existence value reached 14 million. This was the result of adding Jahl's power to Footman's power. And Jahl enjoyed, not only magical combat, but also close combat for the purpose of taunting the weak. He could take them all down with pure violence alone, if he so wished. It was, without a doubt, the worst possible situation. Despite being a genius, Yuki was frustrated with himself for not being able to come up with an answer that could get him through this situation. He wondered if he should have continued pretending to be insane for a while longer, but rejected the idea. That was one way to go, but the best time to get Kigali back had been at that moment. It was just that Feldway was a step ahead of him. He had prepared carefully, and had taken all possible precautions. The more moves one had hidden, the more advantages they would have. This time, Yuki honestly regretted that he had lost. Even though he had been with Footman for a long time, he had not realized that Footman, who was supposed to be his friend, had any evil intent. Rather than saying that it was his fault for not being able to see it, he should have praised Feldway for making such careful preparations. It's always like this. This world is really so unreasonable. While reflecting on his actions, Yuki lamented the absurdity of this world. There was a possibility that Tyr might have had something to do with it, and he tried to be wary of it, but soon realized that it was meaningless. If there really was such a thing, there was no reason to keep it in mind this time. Suddenly, he remembered that slime, which seemed to be the embodiment of unreasonableness. Rimuru-san. If it's that man, then he would never give up. I'm the one who came here first. But he came later, and did whatever he wanted. And that's even better than the ideals I've been trying so hard to achieve. It's really sickening. That's what he thought, but he wasn't displeased. Rather, it seemed to make him laugh from the bottom of his heart. What are you laughing at? No, I'm just remembering something amusing. I thought you were a truly nasty and dangerous opponent, but there is someone who is even scarier than that. He's the only one who can easily overcome my tricks and still remain aloof. Wahaha, Rimuru-san. Ha. Well, that guy really is something else. Right. It's not my nature to rely on others, but I'm willing to do so here. He'll be here soon, to support us, so there's only one option to choose. Yuki smiled fearlessly. Yeah, that's true. Laplace also laughed. Buying time. That was the only way from the start, so it's a decision that's a little late coming. As if caught up in the moment, Kigali stood up as well. Alright, I'll do my best too. Tyr was also motivated. Yuki, Laplace, Kigali, and Tyr. The four of them stood shoulder to shoulder, facing Jahl, who had taken over Footman. I'll avenge you, Footman. With Laplace's spirited words as a signal, the fierce battle began. Sylvia, while fighting Leon, observed Yuki and the others from a broader perspective. They were outnumbered 4-1, but it was Jahl who actually had the upper hand. Yuki was half dead and half alive. The hole in his chest seemed to have been filled, but it had worn him down. Fortunately, Yuki's constitution was a special one called anti-skill. This stopped Jahl's fireball, and the fight to the death has been barely maintained. Yuki was the key defender, and Laplace and Tyr were his guards. But Kigali providing support, they were able to stand up to their formidable opponent, Jahl. Yuki-kun, right. If he falls, then the whole thing will collapse. It wouldn't just be a loss of their defenses. The mood of the entire party was made by Yuki's cheerful instructions. In response, Laplace pushed himself harder. Tyr was just a drifter, so she could be strong or weak depending on the mood. Kigali, the command tower, seemed to understand the situation. Well, even if she understands, she can't do anything if she doesn't have help. In other words, there was nothing they could do. They were slowly losing strength, and it was now a game of how much time they could postpone until they were defeated. Stalling. The answer they came up with was probably the only correct one. Damn, that's really bullshit strength. My anti-skill can ignore all the defensive barriers, but his pure durability is too high to do any damage. You're right, his nature is just too different. Even with my prediction, I can't see a future where I can do any damage. No matter what they did, they knew it wouldn't work, and it made them feel hopeless. But there was only one reason why this was not the case. They believed that Rimuru and the others would soon arrive. As L-chan said, Rimuru-kun sure is amazing. Even when he's not here, he is still a hope for everyone. Sylvia was also hoping for the best. Even for you, master, don't you think you're being a bit too lax, looking the other way when dealing with me? Perhaps so. But in a battle of similar powers, the one who is impatient will lose. Sylvia evaded Leon's divine speed slashes with a flick. They were both owners of the same line of skills, and of the same school of thought. They knew exactly what the other was doing. The same was true for Leon, but he was under orders from Michael to defeat the enemy. There was a clear difference between those who could just take their time, and those who had to defeat their opponents, and this difference affected the course of the battle. And there was another reason. It was Leon's deep psychology. Subconsciously, Leon was struggling to regain his free will. It was only a minor effect, but it was definitely slowing down his body. That was why the battle between Sylvia and Leon was very stable, with Sylvia in the lead. That's what Sylvia thought. Even so, why isn't Feldway making a move? I'd really be in a bit of trouble if he joined in here. On the other hand, Yuki and the others would be defeated by the imbalance at once. Why hadn't that happened? Sylvia turned her gaze to Feldway to find out why. She observed and made an inference. He doesn't seem to be in a hurry. It's like he thinks that Leon Khan and Jahl are nothing but pawns. He's going to take our data here and make sure to kill us next time. Sylvia was disgusted by the answer. He was being overly cautious. Normally, one would think that it would be more reliable to kill the enemy here. The reason Feldway didn't was because he was putting his own safety first. That led her to believe that he had more than Leon and Jahl in his clutches. That was true. Based on her observations, Feldway believed that he could destroy the enemy with the forces he did not bring this time. He refrained from making a move here, considering the possibility that the enemy might be hiding some secret technique. This cowardly and morbid cautiousness was the essence of Feldway. At any rate, Feldway's decision to stay out of the way seemed to accomplish their goal of stalling. But just when Sylvia was feeling a little more relaxed about the situation, something happened. Oh, yes, I remember now. That anti-skill was a trait that the Dragon Princess's pet once had. As I recall, it was a very troublesome constitution that blocked magic and skills, but there are established ways to deal with it. It's easy. If it's pure power that is neither magic nor skill, it can be repelled. Jahl may be evil, but he was also a top researcher. As a high elf of the ancestor, he had a proven track record, and his eyes were very reliable. That's why he saw through the correct answer. The anti-skill had also been passed down to Milim's pet Chaos Dragon at the end of its life, but Milim's power had defeated and succeeded in sealing it. Jahl, who was unaware of this example, changed his attack method without hesitation, as if he was confident in his answer. In other words, simple violence. Using his own body as a weapon, he attacked Yuki. Jur. You're too weak. Jahl smiled broadly, and beat Yuki to a pulp. From that point on, it was completely one-sided. Yuki barely managed to fight back with his physical skills, but the difference in strength was insurmountable. It didn't take long for the three of them to fall to the floor together, as Lapis and Tyr were lightly dealt with. Jahl. In a fit of rage, Kaguli activated a spell, but it was blocked by the fighting spirit surrounding Jahl's body. Then, Jahl's fist plunged into Kaguli's stomach. It was a pure difference in power that decided the outcome in a brutal way. Jur. Do you understand the folly of challenging me? So, Feldway Dono, are you sure you want to get rid of them? Jahl asked for the final confirmation. He may have intended to kill them from the start, but at least he was making his boss look good. Do as you please. Feldway replied succinctly. Hearing this, Jahl laughed evilly. Kazarium, my son. It's a shame. You were a good test subject. But rest assured, I will soon have a new toy to replace you right away. Jahl declared and began to squeeze power between his outstretched hands. Then, the pure fighting spirit swirled and condensed, transforming into a vast amount of energy that could distort even space-time. The atmosphere crackled and burned. This was neither magic nor skill, but pure destructive power. Not only was it enough to destroy Yuki, but it was so powerful that it might even damage Jahl himself. Sylvia looked at it sideways and paled, thinking that this was no good. All the power was concentrated in one point, creating a destructive force that went beyond nuclear magic. If she took the hit seriously, she'd probably end up disappearing without even leaving her body. Realizing that this was truly dangerous, she put up a defensive barrier with all her might. Leon must have also made the same decision, because he stopped his attack on Sylvia and went to defend Feldway. Yuki was trying to defend himself with Greedy King, Mammon, but he seemed to be running out of energy. Kaguli's barrier with the unique skill schemer was the only last resort. Although she had lost the Domination King, Melchizedek, to Yuki, Kaguli had once reached her ultimate level. Therefore, her skill, schemer, was unique but had grown to a level of performance comparable to an ultimate skill. But it was not enough. In order to overturn the overwhelming difference in power, Kaguli alone was inadequate. I can't do it with just this. I can't withstand it. That was Sylvia's intuition. Jahl's attack was two-tiered. The energy of pure destruction was wrapped up in the Blaze King, Agni. After Kaguli's barrier was blown away by the fireball, the real attack would be waiting. This was all because of Jahl's absurd amount of magicules. It was an inconceivably dense, massive energy, several times denser than Sylvia's. Even if the current Sylvia had joined in with the others, it would still be impossible to prevent this attack. Wasn't there anyone else who could prevent this? Thinking so, she looked around at the four frozen people. Kaguli was doing her best, but to no avail, and Yuki was running out of steam, as mentioned previously. So, what about the other two? Tyr didn't have an ultimate skill, and her defensive barrier was probably not enough to stop anything. In that case, there was no choice but to hope for Lapis, the last one. With that in mind, Sylvia turned her gaze to Lapis and saw something surprising. That face, no way, that person is. Underneath Lapis's shattered mask, there it was. It was a very familiar face. She thought she had long forgotten it, but just one look was enough to fill her with memories. Sylvia couldn't help shouting involuntarily. Run, Sarian. But it was too late for that advice. Well, goodbye. I'll break your soul into pieces, and wipe you off the face of the earth. Jahl's words signaled the end. True to his words, he caused a great deal of destruction. There was a flash, and then an explosion. Leon's castle was blown to bits. A great ball of fire raged wildly, spreading heat waves and flames as it disappeared. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy it.